Childhood is a time of wonder, imagination, and sometimes unexplained mysteries, stories that linger in the back of our minds, leaving us questioning what was real and what was just a trick of the mind. Today we're diving into some of the most bizarre, unsettling, and fascinating childhood mysteries shared by real people. Stories that defy explanation and stay with them for a lifetime. It was the summer of 1998 when my family moved to the small town of Willowbrook. Nestled deep in the countryside, the town was surrounded by dense forests and rolling hills. My parents had bought an old farmhouse on the outskirts of town, a place that had been abandoned for decades. The house was charming in a rustic way, with its creaky wooden floors, large bay windows, and a sprawling backyard that led straight into the woods. But there was something about it that felt off. I was 12 years old at the time, and my younger sister, Emily, was 8. We were excited about the move, especially since the house came with a massive treehouse in the backyard. It was old and weathered, but it looked sturdy enough to play in. My parents warned us to be careful, but we didn't listen. Kids never do. The first few days were uneventful. We unpacked boxes, explored the woods, and spent hours in the treehouse pretending it was our secret fortress. But then things started to get strange. It began with the whispers. Late at night, when the house was quiet, I would hear faint murmurs coming from the walls. At first I thought it was just the wind or the creaking of old wood. But the whispers grew louder, more distinct. They sounded like voices, soft, pleading, and full of sorrow. I tried to ignore them, but they kept me awake night after night. One evening I decided to investigate. I grabbed a flashlight and followed the sound to the basement. The door was always locked, but that night it was slightly ajar. I pushed. It opened and stepped inside. The air was cold and damp, and the walls were lined with shelves filled with jars of preserved fruits and vegetables. At the far end of the room, I noticed a small door, barely visible behind a stack of old crates. Whispers were coming from behind that door. I hesitated, my heart pounding in my chest. Part of me wanted to turn back, but curiosity got the better of me. I moved the crates aside and opened the door. Inside was a narrow staircase leading down into complete darkness. The whispers grew louder, almost as if they were urging me to go down. I took a deep breath and ascended the stairs. At the bottom of the stairs was a small, dimly lit room. The walls were covered in strange symbols, circles, triangles, and words in a language I didn't recognize. In the center of the room was a wooden table, and on it lay a dusty, leather-bound book. I opened the book and flipped through its pages. It was filled with handwritten notes, drawings, and more of those strange symbols. One page caught my eye. It was a map of the property with a large X marked deep in the woods. Beneath it was a note. "The forgotten house holds the key. Beware the watcher in the trees." I didn't know what it meant, but I felt a chill run down my spine. I quickly closed the book and ran back upstairs, locking the basement door behind me. The next day I told Emily about the hidden room and the map. She was fascinated and begged me to take her to see it. Against my better judgment, I agreed. We waited until our parents were busy and snuck into the basement. Emily was amazed by the symbols on the walls and insisted we follow the map. I was hesitant, but her excitement was contagious. We grabbed a flashlight and headed into the woods. The map led us deep into the forest, far beyond where we had ever ventured before. The trees grew thicker, and the sunlight barely pierced through the canopy. After what felt like hours, we finally reached the spot marked with an X. It was smaller than ours, but just as old and decrepit. The windows were broken, and the door hung loosely on its hinges. The air around it felt heavy, and the whispers I had heard in the basement seemed to echo from within. Emily and I exchanged nervous glances, but decided to go inside. The interior of the house was dark and filled with dust. The walls were covered in the same symbols as the basement, and the floor was littered with broken furniture and shattered glass. In the center of the room was a large, ornate mirror. As we approached the mirror, the whispers grew louder. I could almost make out words. "Now, find the key. Free us." Suddenly the room grew colder, and the air seemed to vibrate with energy. The mirror began to glow, and a figure appeared in its reflection. It was a woman dressed in old-fashioned clothes, her face pale and her eyes filled with sadness. "Who are you?" I asked, my voice trembling. The woman didn't speak, but her lips moved in sync with the whispers. She pointed to the floor beneath the mirror. Emily and I knelt down and found a small, rusted key buried in the dirt. As soon as we picked it up, the woman's image faded, and the whispers stopped. We didn't know what the key unlocked, but we were determined to find out. We searched the house from top to bottom, but found nothing. Finally, we decided to return to our own house and search the basement again. Back in the hidden room, we noticed a small keyhole in the wall hidden behind one of the shelves. I inserted the key and turned it. The wall slid open, revealing a hidden passage. Inside was a small chamber filled with old photographs, letters, and trinkets. The walls were covered in more symbols, and in the center of the room was a large wooden chest. We opened the chest and found it filled with bones. The letters told the story of a family who had lived in the house over a century ago. They had been accused of witchcraft and hunted by the townspeople. The parents had hidden their children in the basement, hoping to protect them, but they were eventually found and killed. The symbols on the walls were spells meant to protect the house and its inhabitants. The woman in the mirror was the mother, and the whispers were the voices of the children, trapped in the house and unable to move on. Emily and I were horrified, but also determined to help. We spent days researching the symbols and finally found a ritual that would release the spirits. We performed it in the hidden room, and as we did, the whispers grew louder, more frantic. Then, suddenly, they stopped. The air grew warm, and the symbols on the walls began to fade. We felt a sense of peace wash over the house, as if a great weight had been lifted. We never told our parents what we had found. The house felt different after that, lighter, quieter. The whispers were gone, and the basement door remained locked. Years later, after we had moved away, I returned to Willowbrook. The house was still there, but the tree house had collapsed, and the woods had grown thicker. I walked to the spot where the forgotten house had stood, but there was nothing there, just an empty clearing. I like to think we helped those spirits find peace, but sometimes, late at night, I still hear faint whispers as if they're thanking us or warning us. Childhood is full of moments that shape us, some magical, some terrifying, and some that just leave us wondering. These stories remind us that life is full of mysteries, and sometimes the best thing we can do is embrace the unknown. Do you have an unexplained childhood mystery? Share it in the comments below, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon for more stories that will keep you questioning reality. Until next time, stay curious